Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Brendan over here at AG Back Tech here at PAX East 2023. Checking out a unique corner in the booth here. We're going to be ahead and meet with our guy Brandon over here, talking about the new controllers. So go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Tell us more about you.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Brandon Blako, and I'm the CEO and founder of ByoWave, a company that's 3 years old now. And basically, we come from the west of Ireland, a small,
I'm like, okay, like not local, but yeah, good.
No, very much so. And basically, a friend of mine, Evelyn O'Riordan, has a disability called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So she couldn't find a controller on the market that would let her play games comfortably. So I hacked a controller and built her one. She loved it. We put it on Reddit. People said they liked it, but they'd like this part changed or that part changed. We realized everyone needs a custom solution, but a compact solution. So we thought, okay, why don't we make Lego for video game controllers?
Yeah, because it's very modular in a way. It's uniquely modular. Just for Mark had told me about this as we were coming up our way here, and I saw it. I'm like, oh, it kind of looks like a fidget toy at a first glance.
Yeah.
But as you get closer to it, you see the controllers on it.
Yep.
So you said that your friend has a disability that makes it harder for him to use certain controllers. So do you think that as you guys grow and learn more from the community with the feedback, that there are going to be more and more different features that you're going to add with the controller?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the great thing about the system, really. It's completely dependent on what the community wants and what the community says is working well and not working well. We can adjust and tweak the parts that we're building, the R&D we're doing, the manufacturing of the parts that we're producing in higher volumes or lower volumes, completely dependent on what's working with people and what people in our Discord channel are asking for.
Right. Yeah, no, that's really cool. So far, I see that the main layout is based around the Xbox and Xbox One platform. What are the layouts looking like for possible control schemes and button layouts?
Sure. So to start, it'll work on the Xbox and the PC. It just gets read in basically as an Xbox controller, but you can take it out of the box and immediately build it in any configuration you want. It'll know what configuration you've built it in, and it'll just work. You don't need to remap any buttons necessarily, but if you want to, you can go onto our Chromium web app, connect via USB-C to your PC. It'll show you a 3D render of the controller you've built, and you can remap all the buttons there to be whatever you want. So we supply all the standard inputs that exist on an Xbox controller, but we also have some additional ones, like this one we've created here, which is a 2-button module. So you can map these with E1 and E2. You can map them to be any Xbox input or PC input you want. Yeah,
that was gonna be my follow-up question. So it sounds like with something like this, you gotta have a good software to kind of make it kind of work. And then let's talk about the platforms. Is this only compatible with PC, or are there works for for syncing with Xbox, for example, natively, anything like that?
Yeah, so it works with Xbox and PC. So you get a dongle in the box, you plug that dongle into either your Xbox or your PC, and it connects via Bluetooth to the mother cube, one of 2 mother cubes that you get in the kit, and it just works from there, basically.
Yeah, that was my next question. I kind of assumed it was Bluetooth because it'd be kind of a pain in the ass to be I got this smaller controller, but I have to be tethered. I don't mind being tethered, my desk is right there. But for other people who want to set up, it's just I got to get everything mapped out and set up as well too. So I noticed that you have the little PAX East button on that. So what kind of personality can you add to it?
Absolutely. So we're trying to make it a universal device. So whilst we're designing it with accessibility in mind, we want to build this for everyone.
Yeah.
And in gaming, customization of aesthetics and ergonomics is so important to people. So in the kit, we supply a set of these plugs, and they all have their own unique style. They have our mascot in it doing various different actions. But in the future, we'd love to be able to provide people with the possibility of customizing their own plugs, so they can put their streaming logo or whatever it is on there.
Because I saw that was that caught my attention. I'm I wonder if you guys are going to be either working with people or giving a way to fully customize your controller the way that you want it. That's actually pretty awesome. Customization options, this is just the main color that's going to come in, or are there going to be a different wave of colors?
Yeah, so we're starting out just in black, and we're going to try in the future most likely a run of other colors, but what colors we choose are going to be dependent on manufacturing constraints and the colors that people in our Discord say they'd like to see there next. So we definitely love to explore it in the idea and vein of customization.
I got you. So I have a question for you. It's kind of touching a little bit on we could call it your competitor when it comes to accessibility controllers. Are you familiar with the Microsoft adaptability controller, that big thing?
Yeah.
So what is your take on that? And follow-up question, do you think that this is better suited to meet those needs?
So I think the adaptive controller is absolutely fantastic. I think it was one of the initial innovations in accessible gaming that allowed a lot of new people play games accessibly for the first time. I think, as you mentioned, it's quite a large setup.
Yes.
So I think it's fantastic for a number of disabilities, and I think so many people have unique requirements that the more tools we have in the space for people to be able to play around with, to find their solution, the better. Our solution, we're looking at a more compact form factor.
Yeah.
So I think some people could benefit from this, some people could benefit from the adaptive controller, and then I think with co-piloting capabilities, some people might benefit from both at the same time.
I gotcha. And then going to the portability of the controller, how easy it is to kind of like literally pocket. Are there going to be, aside from like, of course, the main motherboard modules themselves and like the swappable buttons, is there going to be any kind of like carrying case or traveling kind of kit to travel with? Let's talk more about that. Like, are there any kind of accessories or plans for that to make it easier to kind of move around with?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I think we're putting a lot of effort into the design of the initial box that it comes in. So the box that comes in has a nice magnetic latch and it has 3 foam trays in it. So you can actually, there's a slot in there for each of your individual parts. So if you want to travel around with it, you can actually use the box that comes in as a sort of, you know, portable packing device, you know.
Yeah, because like I've read, funnily enough, I have like a little microphone kit that I used like, I want to say earlier this week, and it didn't come with a case, it was just the box. So I just have the box. And I'm like, all right, well, it kind of works out. So let's look at more of the controller here. So for the thumbsticks, are they all like the same universal height, or are you able to get like different heighted thumbsticks or domed or concave, like tops? Like, what's that looking like when it comes to your kit?
So we're really going to lean into advanced manufacturing and 3D printing for the community to be able to customize their own toppers. But here, it comes with one rubberized topper of one standard size. You can take it off pretty easy though, and I have some 3D printed ones and I can add these on super easy.
Okay.
And then if I have an accessibility requirement, this one might be much easier for me to move, say with my elbow or a single finger with much less weight. And here's another example 3D printed one then using
like an actual joystick.
Yeah. So whatever your requirement can be, you can get really customized if you have access to a 3D printer. If you don't, we're looking to offer a service where you can basically purchase one of these parts from the database on our website. A third-party company will 3D print that and send it out to you. And because it's open source, all our connection mechanisms from a mechanical perspective, the community can design new parts and add them to that ecosystem.
Yeah, because like we mentioned like a lot, like it's really community involved with like, all right, this is an accessibility thing where we can make it for pretty much anybody that either has, like how your friend had with their disability, or any kind of like weird things that limits their ability to play games. So you're saying that there is going to be an option to like be able to 3D print like your own parts for the most part, but also you can go to like your official means and like do the manufacturer to make them as well too, correct?
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Oh, that definitely makes sense. So, mind if I hold it?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll let you hold that.
No problem.
So yeah, this is really interesting. So as you mentioned, like it's very modular. Like you already have like the extra buttons here too. I'm assuming you can of course like remap these for like other like kind of face features.
Yeah, anything you want.
All right, and that's one thing I actually really like because a lot of my controllers that I use, well actually two of my most important controllers that I use, they have remappable buttons on like the back side, the paddles.
Yeah.
So that way when I'm playing games like Monster Hunter, if I'm going to switch to my item wheel, instead of having to hold the button and then do another face button, I can just go swap over it without even having to look. Or sometimes like the pros or like the higher end people who play shooters like Call of Duty, they put like all of their critical actions like melee, crouch, interact all on like the back or on like the paddles. So that way they don't have to, they can stay on the sticks at the same time, which this feels great. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Because like I'm holding it, I'm like, oh, this is multi-dimensional. I'm like, oh, this is multi-dimensional. There's so many different layers to it.
I can show you like a more classic configuration with it if you want to see.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the most classic config because I can definitely see like, and that actually felt really good to hold. As small as it is, it does like have like a nice feel to it. So that way it's like easy to maintain and more comfortable to work with.
And there was an interesting configuration someone was using this exact configuration for previously at the convention, they were saying you could use this face to control maybe, I don't know, whilst you're flying in a game.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you go down onto the ground, you might like switch it over.
Yeah,
and so literally just rotate it, and you immediately have access to a whole new set of buttons.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Armored Core games, like the Mecha action game series?
Very vaguely.
Okay, so our cameraman Mark knows as well as I do. So keep it long story short, Armored Core is a hectic, fast-paced, like mecha-based action game where you're literally boosting around like at supersonic speeds, like taking on targets. I can see someone really go crazy with like the button layout to kind of make it make sense.
Yeah.
So with you being able to set up a traditional controller like scheming, are there going to be any other accessories like handles or things like that too to make it easier to hold onto? Because I noticed that on the table right there, it has like the side like little handle prongs
Absolutely.
to hold onto.
And that would be kind of like a starting point for you because, you know, as you mentioned yourself, you look at it and you're like, this is lots of different cubes. What's going on?
Yeah, it's like
so. So the recommended starting point is basically 4 modules connected together, putting the handles on either side, putting the triggers on top, using 2 analog sticks. I'll build it now really quickly, and then you can kind of like get creative from that point.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, this is actually a very interesting thing. Like the fact that we were, funnily enough, Mark and I were just talking about accessibility and things like that in video games. Like, if you're not really aware or kept with the FGC, there was a blind player, completely blind, could not see, needed assistance to get onto the stage. He became placed in the top 10 or top 20 of EVO 2023. So with the accessibility options of the game, like Street Fighter, for example, using that as a reference here, it really opens up the possibility for multiple gamers of different types or different abilities or not to be able to pick up and play. And then I honestly, personally, with me asking about the Xbox like adaptive controller, I do kind of prefer that setup a bit more. My only concern is like, okay, it's a small thing, so kid-friendly kind of nature, but it is a really nice, pocketable, handheld thing to really like stash and go. So if you want to set up your mobile gaming setups like on the go, like, hey, I'm going to play COD on my laptop, or better yet, these things do operate off of Bluetooth, like Brandon mentioned. You could also be like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and boot up, I don't know, Fortnite on my GeForce Now account on my Wi-Fi at home, because I don't really playing on my console and things like that. It's actually really cool. So right now we're waiting for him to just grab some of the extra accessories, at least like the side paddles, to kind of bring some kind of more actualize and realize the configuration. Because
I know I'm just the voice back here, but my question is, I'm curious to see how the FGC will address this.
It's interesting. So as you were setting up, I was just talking about when it comes to like how interesting, how crazy, and how good accessibility for gaming has gotten nowadays. Yeah. There was a Street Fighter competitor in EVO like this year who placed really high up, and he was blind, could not see. But the game had a lot of watch your back. The game had a bunch of really good audio cues and things like that to kind of make it make sense. So this is like more or less the default configuration you were talking about.
Yeah, so this would be like a super simple default configuration, and you can see there you have 2 handles on the side. You have your ABX line, you have your D-pad. You might want to rotate it there. You can try to take this part out and rotate it by just. It rotates 1 to 16 different angles really easily. You have your 2 triggers on top, and then you get 4 spaces, like you're saying, for the buttons on the back too.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, we got to get a good look at this, because let's look at the front. So the front, you have your traditional opposite joysticks. Then you have your main face buttons and your D-pad. Of course, you got your triggers as well, your L1s and your R1s, and Lbs and your RBs. But going on the bottom, you can, of course, put different buttons here. Like how I was telling him earlier with how the controller that I have, like I have the PowerA Fusion Pro, where it has the paddles on the back. You can actually do more or less the same thing. You can map it in a way so that we have all your buttons where you need it. So I would see myself having these extra like E buttons or like the other smaller buttons like this on the back side for different games. And it feels pretty good.
How's the weight? How's it feel?
Like, it's hard to explain. Okay, best way to explain it, it's a solid weight. It's not heavy like the pro controllers, like the Elite Pros or the big boys that have like the paddles, the motors, all the sensors and stuff. It's light enough where like you don't really notice it, but it has enough solid weight where like you're kind of grounded and you can feel more stable, especially when you're making like higher risk motions. Oh, since a lot of this stuff is magnetic, I'm assuming there's like some kind of locking feature to keep them from like flying apart, or how well is it secure? What's the kind of expectation on that kind of durability?
So we've designed each module and connection mechanism based upon the module itself and based upon testing.
Yeah.
So these peripherals, like the ABXY button, have a very low profile.
Yeah.
So we found that having them just connect on magnetically is generally fine, and they won't come off mid-game, even if someone's in a really intense session.
Okay.
The larger modules, then, they have this toggle mechanical locking mechanism. So you actually have to toggle this in.
Oh, I see the
and
gear
out.
turning.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
and that locks
yeah.
it in place
Get a
at
good
one
look
of
at-
these 16
let's get a good
magnets.
look at that.
So you can lock that
So
locked and open.
So it's magnetic with the poles here and the connectors, but you also have the teeth that lock in and that kind of fill in that gap. That's what's interesting.
But then, for example, if you have a higher profile peripheral module, you don't want a toggle switch to make it super complicated and increase the profile even more.
Of course.
But you'd still like it to be more solidly connected than just a magnet. So we just created this simple kind of twist lock mechanism. So you put this in here, it still has a magnet,
Yeah,
but
but
after you put it in, you rotate it, and now it's locked in place. Really easy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely appreciate that because, like, as we were talking, I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is beautiful. But the alarm bells rang on my head. I'm like, okay, what if, like, of course, intense session, like, boop, there goes your thumbstick, like, across the room under the couch.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But that's actually definitely very great forward thinking.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and then let's go ahead and look at the thumbsticks a bit more. I know. Let's get the tough question out the way. Are we gonna have to worry about like stick drift?
Most likely, yes, because they're using the standard thumbstick with the resistive potentiometers in there. We're considering Hall effect sensors for the future. One nice thing is because it's modular, obviously you could replace parts in the future without having to replace an entire controller. We do have in the software a calibration sequence, so you can recalibrate the thumbstick whenever you want using the software that's provided for free.
So you can calibrate like the dead zones and the sensitivity and all that, so that way you can be pretty much all set. Let me move out the way because it looks like everybody's coming through.
Problem.
But yeah, you can basically calibrate it. Oh, speaking of calibration and like settings to configurations, are you able to save like profiles as well?
We don't yet, but it's on the development roadmap. A lot of people have said that's really important to them, whether they're switching between their PC gameplay over to their Xbox gameplay, or maybe even for an occupational therapist that uses the controller with 3 different patients, and they just want to switch between the configuration for each patient, or per game, as you suggest.
Yeah, because that's something, that would definitely make sense because funnily enough, I used to do a lot of research on like video games and like the effect on like the human mind and things like that. Like there's a lot of research papers like for school papers, but I learned that like there are a lot of instances where, for example, with veterans, like my friend here, he's also a military vet. People like him would go to video games for different types of therapy for like their PTSD and things like that. And then looking at this will definitely help literally change the game with stuff like that, because people who come, like either people in the service who come back with a new disability or disfigurement or something that affects their ability to enjoy their hobbies, things like this with the love and care and the thought behind making sure that, hey, everyone can play is a really huge thing, and I personally appreciate that. Like, it's like you guys are doing fantastic, and honestly, we need more people like you guys.
Oh no, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, that's part of our mission and our core, and it's still an experiment. We're just hoping we can add, our own tool set to give people the options to play games again. And when we hear stories of it working for people in, that situation, any accessible situation, it means so much to us.
All right, that's awesome. And then the last thing I want to cover, let's talk about the numbers here. You said this is still in development, correct?
Yeah, so it's been in development for 3 years now, and we're aiming to launch in Q1 next year, but we don't have a firm date yet.
I gotcha. And then is there any sort of like price point or expected range, or is that still being worked out until release?
Yeah, so we're aiming for $299, and that's for the full kit, which has 2 mother cubes, which have 760 milliamp hour batteries inside of them, and Bluetooth capability, 2 analog cubes, an edge module, which allows you to add things at 45 degrees, a spacer module, a USB-C charging / firmware updating module. You have the 2 triggers, all the standard inputs like ABXY, D-pad, Xbox module, and then you have our own custom ones, the 2 button, the 1 button, and then you get the series of plugs and the handles on top of that too.
I gotcha. And then of course I know we talked on the parts like, well, like your community can like either download the parts and print them with the 3D printer.
Yeah.
But do you have like an estimate price range on like how much parts are going to be if they choose to buy it from you guys, or is that still being worked on?
That's still being worked on because that's dependent on the partner that we work with to 3D print those parts. So we're not entirely sure yet. From the initial estimates we've gotten, it's more so the time frame. in 3D printing and delivering, that's a problem rather than the price. The prices generally seems okay.
Yeah, so it looks like what we've got going on here is that this is heavily community influenced, like Brandon's been mentioning, that they've been sending out feedback, getting feedback from like people in the Discord or like their community to say, hey, I want to add this, I want to add this. And then with the ability to be able to print your own parts, that's huge. Because 3D printing, it's pretty much exploded over the past few years. Like I remember when it started about 10 years or so ago, they were like $1,000 printers, but you can get a good 3D printer for like sub 300 if you know where to look. And on top of that, you get one of these and you pretty much have a controller for life. Because outside from the mother modules, you can just go ahead and just add, swap, or replace everything that you could possibly need.
Literally.
And then it's obviously safe to assume it's not for like super young kids, right?
Well, actually, of course, under 3 years, I believe, is a choking hazard.
Yes.
But outside of that, we had a kid at the booth yesterday who found it really difficult to use a standard controller because it's really complicated. You know, you're learning initially how to use a controller. But then we made a controller out of just 2 cubes. We put one big button on the right side, that was A, that was to go forward in Crash Nitro Racing. And then we had the left analog stick on the left-hand side, and she was just holding the 2 cubes, and we put on a big joystick on top as well. She was able to play with that for like the first time. So,
nice.
Yeah, so that was really cool actually.
All right, so yeah, so definitely, of course, like health, like that was just like another kind of concern in my mind because like I'm pretty sure you guys thought about this too. It's like, oh, this is a little small. What can we do? But it seems like you guys have answered like a lot of really critical questions on things like that. So folks, just remember you can expect this around like Q1 2024. Suggested retail price is about $299 or so, about $299, and with the parts, they are working on getting them sold through like either a manufacturer. But if you have a 3D printer, or if you have a friend that has a 3D printer and they're savvy enough, you can go ahead and get the schematics that you need and get them printed. So without further ado, I think we're just about good to wrap it up here. What the heck
I
is
can
that?
tell you one last thing.
I'm like, I look at the corner of my eye, I'm like, huh?
So this is like a 3D printed part, and to make it even easier to like design 3D printed parts, we've created these additional clip-in connection mechanisms. So you could take out this handle that comes with the kit here. I'll toggle that out.
Okay.
Here, I'll take this one out too. And then this one, you can basically just slip on here and rotate it in. Oops. These are just prototypes, don't worry.
Yeah, no, I got you. like I'm like, hey, you're in the head of all this.
Yeah. So I wrote it down in place, and now instead of having to necessarily create an entire part that has the difficult tolerances of the part that rotates in here, you can just get this file, 3D print this file, and then create your own handle that just slides in on top of here to make it even easier. So then this handle, for example, will let me play in more of a classical configuration. So you can see this angle is a cube of 45 degrees.
Yeah.
So now I have more of a sort of like VR controller layout, or maybe I want to add this in the back here, put this here, put this here. I have access to this on the back, I have access to this in the front, access to this here. And then I might want to put this here.
Yep.
And swap this on here. And now I have more of a, as you can see, with 3D printed classical input, and I can rotate these up here.
That's cool. Like
That's kinda funky, and I like that.
Exactly. It's like it's giving me, like I said, it's giving me like fidget cube vibes. If this is a throwback, I'm not sure if you might know this. It's an old show. It's an old show called Cubics, where there were robots that were that part shaped like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting off of this.
I didn't know about that, but 5 people have said that to me now, so I've learned about it.
Because you look at it, it's just like,
You feel old yet, Brendan?
listen, I'm trying my best. But yeah, it's I saw it, I'm like, fidget cube, like bop it, like no, it's not a bop it. Fidget cube, no, Cubics, nah, that's it. That's really, I love this thing. Like I really can't wait to see this, like, see more work go in. Like I definitely, shout outs to like you guys and your community for like coming up with these great ideas and like trying to make gaming as accessible as possible. So without further ado, was there anywhere else, where can we keep up with all this stuff?
Yeah, so the Discord will be the best place for that. It's still early enough days in the Discord, so the more people the better. We'd love to help out in there. The link to the Discord is available on our website, so it's ByoWave.com, ByoWave.com. Scroll down a little bit and there'll be a Discord link there. Join in there, and that's where we'll be giving all our updates on release dates, new modules, feedback potentially tournaments, that sort of thing in the future.
I got you. And then one weird question: how'd you come up with the name ByoWave? I feel like it's like bring your own wave bird, the GameCube controller. Am I on the money or am I off?
No, it was completely arbitrary. We wanted to be focusing on the engineering immediately, so we just quickly picked a name. It was like biology, bio with wave, waveforms, biology with waveforms. BIOWAVE was taken, so we just made it BYO.
Bring your own waveform.
After we realized that sounds super cool. Or build your own waveform.
Build your own. See, we got ideas here. Well, everybody, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Don't want to take up Brandon's too much time. Fantastic learning about a brand new product and accessibility. This is AG Back Tech signing off. You can go ahead and catch up with the product at ByoWave.com. Their Discord is going to be linked on their website as well. So until then, catch you guys next time.
So who wanna blood dance with me? Leave your body wrapped up or even a street fantasy. In the square, yo, you best to beware. Street fighter, we ain't playing over here. One-on-one, kid, you know you get finished. Round one, round two, just come and get with it. Your heart ain't cold stone, forget about the power. Battle this out to the 24th hour. Pay the price that you could